front porch for a couple of Google Meets. I was having trouble with my internet.
Mm.
So I'm not sure if it was because I went outside or just a coincidence,
Yep.
but I thought I'd better come back in.
Yep. Well, we're glad to have you with us. So I I've been really drowning in Seal of Biliteracy applications, which is a wonderful thing. You might have just seen the message I sent out a few minutes ago. There are so many. I don't know the full number yet, but I think this year is going to be definitely a higher total than last year, which is great to see, especially considering the challenges of this year. You know, that's just really wonderful. And I forget if any of you are participating in the Seal of Biliteracy this year. Is your school participating? Tracy?
We have a couple students that have, yes.
That's great. What about you, Katie?
Terrible.
We did last year, but not this year. I'm not at the high school anymore this year.
Yeah.
And so nobody picked it up, and it wasn't on my list to push, so I didn't get there.
Yeah, I can certainly understand shifting priorities for this year for everybody.
Yeah.
What about you, Darcy?
I got to it too late by the time I put everything together because I haven't been up in the high school.
Yep.
And then no one can answer any questions and guidance. And so it's something that we're going to have to build a little bit more awareness of.
Certainly.
Because
Yeah.
I'm not sure if the student really would have passed one of the other languages anyway, but it would have been nice to try.
Yeah. Well,
Next year.
Right. As everybody's looking towards next year, if there's anything at all I can do to support you, I'm more than happy, because certainly I'd love to see this award go to as many English learners as possible. And do keep in mind too that if a student who's an English learner, or really any student with a primary or home language other than English, hasn't had the opportunity to become literate in that language, for example, they never had formal schooling in their primary or home language, then they can request an exemption from the writing and reading domains. So they would only need to demonstrate their proficiency in speaking and listening. So that hopefully makes it more accessible to students like that.
I have a question on that, April. Is it so would that apply so last year a student of mine got exempted from that because her home language was not, it's not taught in any main public school. Is that going to continue, that exemption?
Yes, so right, basically the student just needs to provide a very brief narrative describing the reason that the student hasn't had the opportunity to acquire literacy skills, and then that would be approved. And that's equally true also for languages that don't have a written form, which there certainly are some of our students whose languages fall into that category. So we try to make it as really equitable and accessible as possible to everyone, regardless of what their language is. Yep. Other than that, that's the biggest thing on my mind these days. But I wanted to check in with you all and hear what you're thinking about as we wrap up this school year and look ahead to the fall. I'd love to hear from you what your school's plans are for the fall and what you're looking forward to about next school year. If anything, I hope there's something.
I haven't gotten that far yet.
Yeah.
Looking forward to the scores coming back and just knowing how they shook out. I
Yep.
guess that's my next big part.
And Darcy, on that topic, do you have a suspicion or a sense of how things are going to go? I mean, obviously there are a lot of
Well, it's,
circumstances this year versus a typical year.
I know I'm feeling confident about a few kids, but maybe I shouldn't because it is such a crazy year. But last year things went wrong that shouldn't have gone wrong. So I'm hoping those couple kids pulled through, but yeah, half the time, I don't know.
Yeah.
Half the FaceTime.
Yeah. What about you, Katie? Are you looking forward to anything next year, or have you had a moment to even think about next year yet?
I think I've started to a little bit in trying to, so I'm the only position, the only teacher in the 3-school district. And so not really sure what it will look like next year and what the needs will be, but trying to imagine who I know will still be on my caseload and who might might not be, and how that would totally change where I spend my time and at what level I'm spending, I'm teaching.
Yep.
And yeah, you know, all you need is one day and everything can change. And so anticipating that potentially happening, and that could happen in late August, that could happen tomorrow. It happened yesterday. So, you know, just with the news of a student moving, and that's, I mean, that changes my whole schedule and my whole day.
Yep.
So, but I'm looking forward to continuing the work and seeing kids at new schools as they move from 3rd grade to 4th grade and 8th grade to 9th grade, and seeing how they function there, and they adjust to something new. It's exciting.
It's great. Tracy, are you know, you said you're not really thinking about next year yet. So what's
Not really. I don't know about Heather, but no. I'm
But
not
we are still in May, so I don't want to cause any more stress for you. You
Yeah.
still have time to wrap up this year.
Yeah.
I'm definitely looking forward to a couple of things next year. Although Department of Education staff are still working from home, we don't yet know whether that will be a long-term possibility or whether we'll all be back in the office. I'm hopeful and excited about the time when we'll be allowed to travel again, both within the state and to kind of the national conferences that are really important for our professional lives. So those are things that I'm thinking about for next year. I really miss being able to go to schools and see you all in person, get to talk with students. Those things definitely have been lacking from this year. So if and when the time comes that we are allowed to do that, I'd love to come and see you in person. And if you're willing to let me observe your class at any time, I would just really appreciate that, because working at the department, I start to feel a little bit disconnected from schools, and having these weekly meetings with you all has just been wonderful. But to be in a school and to interact with people is a whole different experience. So I'm really excited to do that again. Other than that, I didn't have any major updates or things to share with you. Oh, actually, one thing that just crossed my mind as we were talking about next year, I'm sure you may have seen the announcement from President Biden's administration about changes to the refugee cap. Are you all aware of that? Yeah. So between now and September, Maine does not have a clear picture of how many additional families we might be welcoming, but it could be a significant number. And then for future years, the United States will be welcoming 125,000 refugees per year moving forward. And so is it 125 or 175? Now I'm questioning myself. In any case, a big number. So I think we're likely to see a real revitalization of our English learner enrollment. It's kind of stagnated for the last few years with policies around immigration, but with that change, I think we can anticipate having more students. So is that something, do you think that that is on the radar of your district and or building administrators at this time? Is it something you've heard anybody talking about? Not yet. It might be you who has to say, hey, by the way, have you heard about this? Because it could have an impact, although the three of you are in relatively smaller communities, you never know where families are going to settle. So I think we can all anticipate that there'll be some increase in enrollment.
Well, I'm kind of wondering where that other family is moving from. Where the other families moving to, like
Yeah.
probably moving from Katie's to my place.
Could be.
I mean, that's what I'm afraid of. I'm really
Yeah.
moving.
Yeah. And wherever families are settled initially, they don't always stay in that community for long, as we've certainly seen. So they tend to spread out pretty quickly and find new communities for them that are comfortable and that have opportunities for housing and employment and all of those things. So just
That's Wyndham. That's Wyndham right now.
so I think that's exciting. And I hope that people will kind of proactively prepare, but all we can do is share the information. So are there any other topics on your mind, things that you would like to discuss as a group?
I have a question, and so I don't know. I received an email yesterday, or what's today? I guess Monday, asking me to look into alternative interpretation services.
Okay.
And I guess whatever the story is, but we use Catholic Charities. We've been using Catholic Charities for a very long time, and I think they're incredibly professional. They do a really good job. They relate well with our families. It's been great. And so I was wondering if there are any districts, perhaps Tracy or Darcy, your districts, or April, if you know of any other districts who are thinking of or talking about or have moved away from Catholic Charities as their provider, interpreter services provider.
I've only ever used House of Languages.
Okay.
I don't know why. It works out usually pretty well. I mean, as far as different languages that they have.
And I'm honestly not sure who we use because Heather always sets that up. Central office for some reason only wants her to have the information. So I don't know who we use.
Katie, from my awareness, in Southern Maine, House of Languages is quite popular among districts. They're able to accommodate virtually any language, so that's a really nice thing. There's a list of interpreter and translator agencies on the Maine DOE website you might have come across, with some other options on there. Not all of them are local though, so for local options in your area, House of Languages is the only one that comes to mind as being somewhat nearby for you. Not sure where everybody else, I know the Bangor Chinese School does offer interpreters as well, but they're quite far away from you. Who else? I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, I've sent them along the website and with the list of providers.
Great.
But I feel like what we do works at the same time. But House of Languages, are they where are they out of?
Portland.
Portland. Okay. Just like Catholic Charities.
But they work with locally based interpreters who might live anywhere, but primarily in the greater Portland area.
I got a guy from Minnesota this past fall.
Oh, wow.
He knew all about the access and his high school, so it was actually pretty great. That's why I needed to explain. But I'm like, oh, Minnesota. Okay.
Yeah, and that accessibility will change once our meetings transition to in-person meetings, right?
I've always done them virtually. I've
Oh,
always
okay.
bought in because Wyndham wouldn't pay for, and that was becoming a problem. They wouldn't pay for transportation for them to come in. And so right away, like when I kind of took over, so we've been doing the Zoom Skype thing. I've been doing that for a while
Oh, good.
with interpreters, and it works out really well.
Yeah.
Do any of your districts use Language Line for the phone interpretation?
That sounds familiar.
Yeah.
So
So
I-
It's
Heather,
intimidating.
yeah, they do. In my experience, they do a nice job, but certainly if at all possible, face-to-face is preferable. Just it really facilitates communication when you're able to see each other. But for kind of on the spot, urgent needs, phone interpretation can help. So if your district isn't yet using a service like Language Line, you might consider offering that as an option. And because the state of Maine contracts with Language Line Solutions, Maine school districts are able to use it at the state of Maine government rate. How exactly you set that up, I'm not 100% sure. But you should be able to contact Language Line Solutions customer service and they will be able to help you through that part if you're interested in that.
I have one more question about newcomers and state testing.
Okay, yes.
so I know that I don't know if it's a suggestion or a guideline or what we do here in the state of Maine, but how long is it before newcomers or English learners are expected to participate in state testing?
So the federal law allows for a single time exemption for recently arrived English learners within 1 year of arrival. But that's only from the English language arts portion of the state academic test. So that's a question that I get very often, like about the other state tests, math or science or whatever it may be. It is only the English language arts portion that a student can be exempt from. And we just had a conversation about this at the department. I always get so confused about the cutoff dates. It was March 1st because that was the end of access testing. But this year, all of the assessment windows have been different. So I'm honestly a little confused about the dates. But if you look on the Maine Department of Education website under the assessment team pages, you should be able to find that right there. And I apologize that I just haven't quite wrapped my head around how it looks for this year. Jody is also a good person. If you want to send her an email, she'll be able to tell you more clearly than I can.
And is it the date of arrival or the day of enrollment?
I think it's the date of.
I can look
This
at
is
that.
first date. I think it's the first date in school, but
Okay,
I wish I knew better for you, Katie. Sorry.
that's okay. That's okay.
Anything else on anybody's minds these days? No. Okay. Well, what time is it? 3:18. This could be our speediest office hour ever if you'd like. You can take a little time and go for a walk, hopefully soak up a little
I
vitamin D.
will.
Yeah, I think I will too. I have 2 more meetings today, but maybe I can squeeze in a quick one.
Oh, definitely. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
Appreciate
thank
it.
you.
Thanks for coming, everybody, and I hope
See you
you have a
guys.
good week. See you next time.
Yeah,
Thanks.
Good to see
You
everyone.
too.
Thank you.
Bye. Nice to see
Yes.
you all.